So it's 4 a.m. and I have some thoughts. So lately anymore, the new debate raging in DBD, and yes, I know depending on when you're watching this, there's always a fucking debate in DBD. I'm just happy it's not the nurse right now or Blight's add-ons. That's next week. So the new one right now is since there's bots coming in for DC players, is should there still be a DC penalty? And now the purpose of this isn't to actually talk about that. That's an entirely separate video. It's the arguments I've had over the year, and with this current one going on, I see the same, shticks being used to make arguments for or against, DC penalty. But it's the same one I see used every single time when people bring up gameplay styles or stuff they don't like in the game or stuff about MMR that needs changed, is MMR. So first off, I think it's safe to say that MMR doesn't really work in this game. They kind of tried to make it work when it first came out, but it just caused too long a queue time. So they had to, widen the variance between, different players' MMR so we could get lobbies put together, because the queue times just took too long. So they tried to make it work, but in order for queue times not to go 15, 20 minutes a pop, they had to, widen out the search radius on either side of your MMR for other players. So you get a wild and eclectic variance of people in your lobbies. And because of that, it's like MMR basically just doesn't really work, and the soft cap on it's so low that most players hit the soft cap within just a month or two of coming into the game anyway. So basically, if you played DBD for any period of time, congratulations, you're high MMR. Are you not that great at the game? You're still probably high MMR. However, that's beyond the point. The point is, every time I have one of these arguments when I'm like, no, we don't need to do this, or yes, we need to do that, it always boils down to, well, you just don't know what it's like at high MMR. First off, that's the whole point of this video. First off, there's a couple things wrong with that fucking statement. You're just assuming that everyone you talk to when you make that statement is a worse player than you or is lower MMR than you, which the only reason someone's going to be lower MMR than you is if they, just bought the game, really. However, outside of that, it is a very, broad statement to make against other people in the game. And it's always kind of, hidey-tidy up there, putting yourself on a pedestal, looking down at others, going, you don't know what it's like to stand up here. That's what it comes across as every time, is I'm so much better than you. You just have no clue how hard it is. But that argument can also be ripped to shreds off the fact that every time I've had this argument with somebody, and they bring up oh, they need to do something about this slugging or this camping, and I'm like, well, it's a play style. There's nothing really wrong with it. I mean, it's the game, and everyone's like, well, you just don't know what it's like at high MMR. I get slugged and tunneled and camped every game. I just can't, we can't play a normal game. We keep getting team wiped because killers keep doing this. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You're telling me you're high MMR, but you're losing every game? All right, with the way MMR is supposed to work, that's not how it goes. Secondly, on the reverse side, I should say, is if you're facing tunnelers and campers and sluggers and you're still high MMR because you're winning every game, then that proves that those playstyles aren't necessarily effective and that you are winning and have no reason to complain about it. So, it's one or the other. There is no in-between on that argument. That's the glorious thing about that comeback, is if it's a playstyle that's causing you to lose every single game, you're not high MMR. But if it's a playstyle that you're beating nearly every single game, well, then the playstyle's not a problem because you're having no problems. You don't like it, but you're countering it and you're winning. Isn't that what matters? And it's one of those or the other. If you're winning 50% of your games, congratulations, you're at the MMR you're supposed to be. So if I hear someone saying, mad they're losing half their games to it, I'm like, well, you're supposed to lose half your games. That means MMR is working. If you're put at a level of 50-50, that's perfect MMR. You're not going to win every single game. You're not supposed to. Don't tell some people that, though. They get very fucking pissed off. But it just boils down to everyone makes this same argument every single time there's something to talk about in DBD, you just don't know what it's like at high MMR. And I really wish we could get away from fucking doing that, because it literally is a put yourself on a pedestal and fucking praise yourself fucking argument, because you're just saying I'm so much better than you. And at the same time, while saying I never win a game, it's like that meme, you know, where the person's getting the award and they're shaking, they're shooting the champagne going, no, I'm the best, and they're at the bottom of the pedestal, like that meme. That's what it really feels like every time someone says you don't know what it's like at high MMR. So I really wish we could get away from it. And the best part about that argument, though, is if you get into an argument with somebody that's making that claim and you bring up the fact that, hey, if you're high MMR and losing every single game, then you're not high MMR. But if you're high MMR and beating those strategies you're complaining about, then it's not a problem. Which is it? I've used that clapback a few times, and it's always the same response. Fucking dead air. Nobody has a response, because there isn't nothing you can effectively say against that, because it's the truth. You know, once they start to think about it, it's like, can you be high MMR if you are losing every game? Or is that, you know, playstyle a problem because you're winning every game? I mean, doesn't seem like it is, and I'll argue some of the playstyles people hate, people aren't actively trying to win, like a face camping Bubba or a basement Bubba. It's a meme. It actually will only work 1 out of 10 times. I know, I've tried. I actually kind of sat through and did about 10 games, and I only had one game where anybody else actually came to the basement for save. Everybody else heard a chainsaw, seen somebody get hooked in the basement, and then they never fucking came to the basement. Because smart teams, high MMR teams, and, you know, actual good players ain't gonna fall for that shit. They'll use that time while you're sitting there in the basement to just pound gens and shit. And so a lot of these arguments people make against these playstyles, sure, you know, I'm willing to bet they probably are high MMR and are winning every game, because those playstyles aren't meant to be winning strategies. They're just kind of meant to piss you off. But at the same time, you really have no reason. It's like killers that fucking complain about body blocking. Like, oh my God, that's an entirely different video. But I just, you know, it was 4 a.m. I had some thoughts, and I wanted to share them all about fucking people's overuse of trying to claim high MMR to make their points. It's getting obnoxious. Let's just stop doing it, people. Well, anyway, cheers.